What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Technology in Italy is very fond of small practical cars, and what can be more practical than minivans? According to many, nothing, and that is why Fiat has been producing such cars for a long time. The appearance of the Fiat Doblo TYP 223 in 2000 was marked by the use of a new body concept, borrowed from the French instead of using the front part of the saloon from the usual low-passenger car, as it was in the predecessors, for example, in Fiat Fiorino. The new model has a body almost entirely of its own. With the Fiat Palio Uno platform, it is related only by the front suspension and engine shield structures, front spars and floors of the front passenger part. Otherwise, the body is unique. It has a much more upright seating position, higher height of cargo and passenger compartments, and sliding side doors. As a result, the internal volume of the cargo area was increased to 3 cubic meters, making the floor of the rear part absolutely flat. Buyers could choose between a glazed or blank cargo area and whether or not to have a left sliding door. Third-party companies quickly mastered the production of variants with a high roof and even with an extension. Such versions of Doblo are also present on the market. Technically, everything in Doblo is quite simple and boring. Its body is all steel, the arrangement of units is transverse row and line. The front suspension is McPherson, rear suspension is spring-dependent with a rigid beam. Doblo has only 4-cylinder engines, gearboxes only with manual shifting. At the same time, in all versions of Doblo there is ABS, and in later cars an ESP, even in the basic configuration. Timeline September 2000. The model is presented at the Paris Motor Show. Fall 2000. Production of the model for the European market began in Turkey at Fiat Tofaş Enterprise. January 2001. Start of Doblo sales in Europe. Engines are 1.2-liter gasoline with an output of 65 horsepower, 1.6-liter CNG, 92 horsepower, and diesels 1.9D and 1.9 JTD with an output of 63 and 105 horsepower, respectively. All motors are mated to a 5-speed manual transmission. Body styles include a cargo 2-seater without rear glazing, a passenger 5-seater, and several cargo passenger versions. The body can be 4- or 5-door with 1 or 2 doors on the left side in cargo passenger versions. 2002, production of the trucks in Brazil, North Korea, and Vietnam began. Spring 2004. 7-seat passenger body version was offered. December 2005. Facelift of the model. Exterior changes include new optics, bumpers, radiator grille. The range of engines was revised. 1.4-liter gasoline engine, 8 valves, 76 horsepower, became the basic 1.6-liter CNG engine with 92 horsepower remained. There was a new turbo diesel 1.3-liter in 75 and 84 horsepower variants, also announced are electric versions for the Italian domestic market, and with 3 types of batteries, lithium, lithium titanate and lead acid. April 20, 2007. Assembly started at Salo's plant in Nabrizhnichelny. January 2010. Curtailment of the first-generation production at Tofaş plant. Assembly from machine kits at the Salo's plant continued until the middle of the year. Deliveries of cars from Poland to the Russian market continued until 2015. In Brazil, the production of Doblo of this generation continued until 2021. Body. Exterior panels. The external condition of the Doblo body depends more on loads and maintenance than on the age of the car. Even the earliest copies are still caught in a very good external condition, while cars released in 2007 to 2010, after heavy use can be with holes in the sills and a lot of small pockets of corrosion. The main weak points of the model are body sills and lower parts of door panels. Rather delicate culling and a small layer of anti-gravel on the lower part of the body poorly saved from chipping and the high load on the sills and clogged drains of all doors create a favorable environment for the development of corrosion. If the owners launched minor defects of paintwork, did not follow the serviceability of drainage and simply overloaded the auto, then All this will be perfectly visible from the outside. Fortunately, the metal here is well galvanized and gives time for defects to be repaired. It even easily treats repairs of not very high quality. The bulk of cars do not have any serious body damage, and frankly rotten copies are very rare. But vigilance, of course, should be shown, especially when inspecting the sills. It is quite expensive to re-weld them, and overbuying. Bypass technologies are used to the fullest extent. There is putty in places of failures in the lower part, and mold out of epoxy ends at the arches. In general, be careful with sills during inspection. It is difficult to hide defects of doors. It is more expensive to hide the flaws of the bolting at the bottom of the door than to replace its entire panel, so usually cosmetics is not a big deal. At best, they cover the rust a little with anti-gravel. Agent stress also leave their marks on the rest of the bodywork. Small chips and even small pockets of corrosion can often be found on the windshield frame, around the door handles, on the arches. And, of course, on the front of the hood, especially if the car is a track car. On cars from rainy regions, pay attention to the lower part of the front fender. There is not a very good mud pocket there, and if the fender behind the lockers was not cleaned, it will be seen by the condition of the edges of the arch and the edge of the fender itself. This place can be seen with the door open. Do not be lazy to bend the window seals of the sliding side and rear door, under which H cars often have unpleasant corrosion. And special attention should be paid to the area of fixing the rails of sliding doors, which accumulate dirt and around which there are often many small defects. Inspect also the places of installation of door stops. The metal of the door at the attachment point is often torn here. It should be said that for commercial vehicles Fiat Doblo is preserved just fine. But the liveliest copies are always passenger versions which never went on the line and were serviced directly by the owners. And pay attention to the mileage. Do not expect a miracle from cars with mileage over 500,000 kilometers. From below, the design of the body here is extremely simple, and therefore it is not badly preserved and just as easily repaired. From underneath, the sills and jack stands should be inspected first of all. The sill may have characteristic fatigue cracks in the middle and rear part, as well as violation of welding points with the stiffener. Internal corrosion of the outer sill panel shows itself mainly in the form of perforations running almost to the junction with the reinforcement from below. Dirt accumulates there, and if the sills are not anti-corroded, the characteristic kind of damage is found even on cars of the last years of production. Another source of potential sill problems is the side door rail niche. It is very desirable to wash it with a Kärcher before inspection. Dirt accumulates there, and holes under it are easily formed. Be careful when inspecting the power components. Traces of cracks at the junction of the engine shield and floor spars and corrosion damage to the seams of the power structure near the attachment points of the rear suspension leaf springs are characteristic signs of severe overloading. The car was sometimes loaded with a ton and more, although the body is not designed for such a load. And it from such an overload banally cracked, after which corrosion can kill the power structure finally. By the way, carefully examine the aperture of the rear door and its seams. Here, too, sometimes traces of overloading during operation are visible. And there may be traces of rough loading from a forklift on the body floor. The rear body floor is surprisingly well preserved. But the fuel tank, located here, is a headache for all owners of older cars. It is steel and rots both from the side in the places where the fuel filler tube is inserted and from the top in the recesses around the fuel pump niche. The original tank is expensive, so traces of epoxy are a definite reason to think about the quality of service of the car and the size of the discount in case of its purchase. Inspection of the bodywork from the inside should start with the front suspension cups. If the car has not been beaten and has not been operated with overload on primers, the seams should be in perfect condition, and holes of bolts of fastening of racks should not have traces of corrosion. The recess between the fender and the body pillar collects dirt very well, but the seam protection here is of high quality. Water and dirt from the cup flows into the pocket between the fender and the body pillar, but from above the state of the cavity is clearly visible in the mirror, although it is better to inspect it by removing the fender liner. This cavity should be cleaned regularly, and if the sealant is damaged it is worth sandblasting, repriming and sealing. On the inside of the arch, light surface corrosion is unfortunately a regular occurrence. but thanks to galvanization there is no big problem with it. The front panel at the radiators rusts quite intensively. It is clear that it is not terrible, but there is a reason to reduce the price. In addition, if such a defect is present in a car of the last years of production, it is worth carefully studying its history. The hood panel can rust along the seams from the inside. Here pay attention to the seams of the front part and on the side of the hinges. In the central part of the overmotor niche dirt accumulates not very intensively, but sometimes there are cars with hole beds under the plastic of this niche. Doblo stove is prone to leaks, so it is necessary to check the floors. Antifreeze odor and squelching mats are quite common. Well, by the condition of the area near the driver's seat box, you can draw conclusions about the condition of the body floors in general. And do not be lazy to remove the door seal at least in the lower part of the opening, there may be surprises there. Body equipment. Do not forget that the Doblo is essentially a very budget car, and do not demand the quality of assembly and durability of small elements, as in the German premium. However, the simplicity of the design makes life much easier, despite even the existence of noticeable disadvantages. For example, the lock of a rear swing door is just an extremely annoying element. Here the handle access rod locks up intentionally and the tongue can close in the wrong direction, and aluminum corrosion over time reaches its body. Sliding doors wear out the guide mechanism and the lower lock. The mechanism must be kept clean and regularly lubricated, and this should be done by washing off the old grease with sand. Plastic bushings of the lower lock are consumables. They have to be replaced every 40 to 50,000 kilometers in case of intensive use. From trifles I will note the necessity to take care of contacts of the central lock. Locks of front doors are a little more reliable, but here the limiter fails. By 200 to 250,000 kilometers of mileage the trapeze of wipers wears out, and at long downtime it sours. It is good that here the situation is saved by a repair kit from Kalina. Headlights are a separate headache. Cars before restyling are rare here, but there are no optics on them even second-hand. Meanwhile, the owners complain about already falling apart plastic and general wear and tear of such headlights. In cars after 2006, the headlights yellow, burn out and are easily rubbed, but they can be bought new very inexpensively. Quality of Turkish plastic is a separate topic. In summer it is all right, but in winter it becomes very fragile, and it concerns not only bumpers, but also moldings, all plastic. Husks under the hood and under the bumper, door handles and everything else. The availability of new spare parts is gradually deteriorating, and this is something to keep in mind. Vibrations of the side mirrors in diesel versions are common, and the general vibration load of running cars is largely to blame. Door seals on 10-year-old cars whistle at speed, and the driver's door is often sagging due to worn hinges. The glass guide is also often worn out, which causes the glass to rattle, and the whistling at speed cannot be eliminated even by replacing the seal. On the passenger side, the seal is shriveled and even cracked, and the sliding window seals are a consumable item unless the windows are locked. Part original price of non-original 2 body front headlight halogen 9 113 TYC 7 446 mm 10 284 windshield 32 830 vendor 10 062 XYG 5 948 front wing 14 962 Aran 8 922 API 9 707 front bumper 26 348 complete Gordon 4 682 Fira 8 590 hood 47 271 average 14 445 Gordon 17 332 Salon. In its time, the Doblo was very praised for the quality of the interior. Ergonomics is really not bad here, but even after Vesta or Logan 2 everything will seem grey and boring. Put up with the fact that even the cheapest cars of those times have much more interesting interior, and materials are better. However, there are no claims to durability of interior of Doblo. Here everything can be washed almost from a hose, buttons levers are very durable, and steering wheels and seats are kept in a decent form up to quite adequate 200 with more than 1000 mileage. Almost all breakdowns are due to rough handling and high mileage. So do not be surprised by broken latch of drawers, sagging visors, shaking mirrors, torn cables of door locks drive, torn covers of gearbox lever. By and large, everything here is made very condovo, and in case of breakage it is easy and cheap to change. The main complaint relates to the delicate heater radiator. Like in many other Fiats, it gets clogged when antifreeze is rarely changed and heats the driver's side poorly. And if antifreeze has not been changed at all, it may leak. The radiator piping is not the best either. Steel tubes in the engine compartment are rusting, rubber sockets are cracked and leak. In general, do not be surprised if the whole line from the engine compartment is replaced by a silicone pipe. It is not coal hosing, but a serious improvement of the design. The fan motor is weak, but cleaning and lubrication considerably prolong its life. Electrics. The simplest electrics has one serious weak point and some not serious ones, which appear at high mileage. However, here again simplicity and convenience of repair help. There are almost no elements that are difficult and expensive to break. The exception is the engine control unit. Breakdown of engine control units on all gasoline engines is the most unpleasant thing that can happen in the electrics. The trouble is about the same as on sub with a Trionic 8 or Opel Vectra C. Astra H. The control unit is mounted on the engine and is exposed to temperatures and vibrations. As a result, there may be soldering failures, failure of several of the least resistant microcircuits and, in addition, corrosion of the contact group due to water getting into it. Sub gets antifreeze there, but these are details. In general, the block is taken care of, because a new one costs 80,000 rubles and it is 1/3 of the price of a quite alive car. It is moved to a cooler place, air ducts are organized, contacts are protected from water. When buying, thoroughly diagnose the machine, because often problems manifest themselves only after a few hours of movement. See the list of erased errors. Multiple failures on landers and other sensors often indicate exactly the breakdown of the block in the initial stage. Otherwise, the electrics are rough, but strong. Its main problems are wear of generators and radiator fans by mileage of 150 to 200,000, not very tight connectors in the cabin and under the hood. In general, all this is solved simply by scheduled replacement of these elements and maintenance of all contacts and connectors with the use of special lubricants at least once every couple of years. All elements are conveniently located, there are no strong problems with maintenance. Well, and all the wearable elements, which are poorly repairable, are still on sale. So it is still possible to buy an ignition switch contact group or window elevator control units. Intermediate result: it can be said that if the car is not overloaded and at least periodically serviced, serious problems with the body, interior and electrics should not be expected. From expensive breakdowns only ECU failure is possible, so that diagnostics at purchase is simply necessary. In the second part we'll tell you what you can expect from the engines, gearboxes and chassis of this Fiat Doblo. Although the car is strong, but it is not new, so you can find something interesting there. In conclusion, while the Fiat Doblo L showcases impressive versatility and durability in its body design, the limitations of its engine control unit can hinder its overall performance. Understanding these strengths and weaknesses is crucial for potential buyers and current owners alike. By recognizing what the vehicle can and cannot do, you can make informed decisions about maintenance and upgrades, ensuring that you get the most out of your Fiat Doblo L. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video has provided valuable insights into this unique vehicle.